What's up, Spartan fans, Mountain West fans, and all of our college hoops fans around the college hoops landscape? I'm Nick Urias coming to you live from the Save Mart Center. We got Jonathan Connis to my right as well, sports broadcaster for 90.5 KSJS. Also does some great work with the Spear at SJSU on the writing side. And Jonathan, we're going to be going back and forth here. We got ourselves a nice 40-minute pregame show as San Jose State is getting ready to take on these Fresno State Bulldogs. This has been a rivalry game. I'd say the rivalry is much more significant than on the football side, but this is still a rivalry where you got two rivals 2 hours away. San Jose State made the bus ride yesterday out here to the Central Valley, and it is still a rivalry game that is significant here in the Mountain West. These two teams are not going to be, playing each other most likely too much often when Fresno State departs to the Pac-12, but still, this has been, I would say, a house of horrors for San Jose State. They haven't won here since 2009. Take the stage a little bit for me, and just your level of excitement here for San Jose State, Fresno State. We're just less than an hour away from tip-off.
I can feel the intensity right away as soon as we walked in here. Rivalry game, I'm all for it, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football. I still think it lives here within both respective valleys. And for San Jose State, I know it lives for a guy like Latrell Davis and Robert Viola. Latrell Davis was on the floor and Viola was on the bench last year when you and me were on the play-by-play call here against Fresno State when Isaiah Hill drilled the last-second shot to get Fresno State that win in a very much winnable game. Two different teams now who we've been saying it all year when it comes to the Spartans and their opponents. Two entirely different teams, two entirely different looks for both of these guys, but the rivalry for both of them still very much in existence here. And for San Jose State, you mentioned it to Tim Miles in the postgame or after Air Force, and he kind of big smile on his face. He said, "Hey, you haven't won here yet," and he's like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the reminder, Nick." And you can tell him and Aduja are a little bit fired up, and really just the whole crew coming into here because hey, they came in here, and I know they already have that love and respect for Miles, and they're going to fight for him. And this game, it means a lot. I don't think as much to the players, but for Tim Miles, because he wants to come in here and show Spartan fans that, hey, this rivalry game means a lot to him too.
Yeah, I mean, Josh was kind of he was like, really? I posted the clip on Twitter, and he couldn't believe it himself, right? And it's an interesting dynamic. We got a nice little ticker here going here on youtube.com/@thesportsentiment, and San Jose State hasn't won here since 2009. Like, that is just so remarkable to me. You talked about the Isaiah Hill game winner. Just to go back to that game last year and generally, we all know it was just a nightmare season for San Jose State. And, it was a season where in order for them to win conference games, Jonathan, they had to play perfect. And they nearly played a perfect basketball game here last year. Different cast of characters. They had MJ Amy, Alvaro Cardenas, Tibet Gorner, Trey Anderson. You had a career high from Tibet Gorner that game, 32 points. He went like 7 for 9 from three. Trey Anderson hit like 5 threes in that game. It was just like an all-out type of game for San Jose State where they couldn't miss from beyond the arc, and they still lost the game. Now, there was a bunch of flaws with that roster. We know that, but this is a new group this year, and it's a re-energized group, and you're starting to feel that now. They've won back-to-back home games. Granted, they're 1-6 in true road games this year, but those have been for the most part some conference games. When they have been on the road, it's been in those neutral site tournaments. So I'm very interested, just to see how the Spartans come out here. This is a Fresno State team, Jonathan. They haven't been great this year. They're 5-17 overall, 1-10 in the Mountain West. Just talk to me about what they provide because Justin Hudson's not here anymore. Head coach, he was here for 5 years. They mutually parted ways, and this is a new cast of characters, a new regime, new head coach, and Vance Wahlberg in his first year. He's got some Fresno ties. He came over from Clovis High School, so he's familiar with the area, but it's very much still a rebuild out here in the Central Valley. And, I kind of said, maybe a month or two ago, this is one of the more erratic teams, and, not only in the conference, but in all of college basketball. This team has very much fizzled out, I would say, the past month or so. They're coming off a game at Boise State this past weekend where they just got absolutely drilled. Just where are you at with this Fresno State team coming off a 22-point loss? And, just talk to me about what they bring to the table because this is a group where the coach left and everybody transferred, just like how how things go here in college basketball. And this is a new group, but this is still a group, even though they're 1-10 in league play, still playing very hard out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, they haven't had the same fate as their counterpart in Utah State, where they got a new coach and they were somehow able to just kind of keep the success going. For Fresno State, it's a hard ask for any school to bring in a new coach, bring in a whole new team, and to start to ask for success. And for Vance Wahlberg, right now, he's starting to see those challenges with this team, and as well as dealing with a plethora of injury. Aguilar was injured early on in the month, and right now they're kind of relying on guys like Alex Crawford, Jalen Weaver. But that being said, Nick, it's a tough task for the home team to come in here as home underdogs. Coming into Fresno State, a rarity at that. And one of the things that they need to excel in really just is almost in every statistical category, but I want to see them excel in the rebounding battle. They got a guy in Elijah Price, Nick, who's a freshman, top 3 in rebounding, really kind of knocking the charts off here for Fresno State, and he's not even a top 3 scorer. So they got guys who can mesh or who can kind of do everything. But the question is if they can kind of mesh well together and find that win. So far, they haven't been able to do that, and the injuries have been playing a big part as well. They lost 2 or 3 key contributors, whether coming off the bench or starting for Wahlberg, and he's rolling out freshmen. And with all due respect, he's also rolling out guys. You mentioned his high school background. He does have a plethora of NBA assistant coaching years in him as well. But right now, he's bringing in guys, from the JUCO aspect and freshmen who are coming in here trying to save Fresno State. And that's such a tough task. And credit to them because they've been able to keep up with teams like Nevada. They took them to the last shot. Like Colorado State, they went all the way to overtime. And those aren't easy schools to do that against. Some of the best in the Mountain West, especially Colorado State, who's standing in top 3. And they took it to them both times. And somehow they haven't been able to get over that hump. I kind of told you that they reminded me of SJSU's team last year, how they were like, right now they only finished with 2 conference wins, but they could have won, 3 or 4 more games if they really put the pedal to the metal. And right now, this is that Fresno State team trying to find that identity. And one of those guys who are coming back here from last year is Jalen Weaver. Him and Latrell Davis, one of the 2 guys from each side who are still kind of feeling that, I guess you can say, rivalry type of feel coming into this game. So for Fresno State, I know the rivalry plays a big part in it, but 1-10 in the conference and 5-17. Them and Air Force at the bottom in almost every statistical category. For them, it's just a matter of really keeping up and trying to get this chemistry going together. I know that sounds crazy to say this far into the season, but any type of win and getting into this close ones, getting the home crowd into it for them is going to be a big part in trying to keep up in this, especially coming off a big loss against Boise State at Boise State by 20 points. They let Andrew Meadow go off for 20 over there, and right now, just any type of momentum for them, whether it's from the bench or from the starters, will help go a long way, especially seeing some guys who used to be in their jerseys on the other side for San Jose State.
Yeah, no doubt, Jonathan. You provided some great points. Just the Fresno State, just team it's been a rough one this year, right? And they were at a game at the Thunderdome in Santa Barbara this year where they were up 20 and somehow lost the game. Like they got some some of the more obscure results. Where they lose by double digits in overtime, right? Where, they're in it for the first 40 minutes and they just absolutely collapse. There's a bunch of storylines heading into this one, but on the San Jose State side, it's no secret if you're a Spartan fan, there's 3 Fresno transfers on this team. 2 of them were on last year's roster, Steven Vasquez and Donovan Yaps, starting point guard for San Jose State. I mean, we could just tell you right now, folks, like, Donovan, like he's chopping it up with all the folks here on the Fresno State side as well. Like this was a home for him for 3 seasons, right? I mean, he had the 1 year at UNLV, 3 years at Fresno, and then he's here for his final season in San Jose. So this is like home to him. He's a Vegas kid, but still, this is a homecoming game for him, and he's definitely playing with a chip on their shoulder. I would say players kind of don't like to admit it, Jonathan, but, just kind of being around these guys and, the way they talk after the games and, everyone has a lot of the players on San Jose State's roster this year have that quote unquote revenge game, if you want to call it that. Josh Aduje with Utah State. We got a lot of Mountain West transfers on this year's roster. So, for Steven Vasquez, Donovan Yap, like there's definitely that dynamic where, hey, it's a game that maybe just means a little bit more. And, for Rob Viola, yes, he's from San Mateo, originally committed to Fresno, but he's been on this San Jose State roster for 3 years, and he didn't get a lot of playing time when he was here. So I feel like in a sense he's always playing with that, like, hey, like Fresno, like I came to San Jose, and every time I play you guys, in a sense, like I'm gonna send a message. So for Big Rob, or as you like to call him, Jonathan Robbie V. This is a game that I imagine that's going to mean a whole lot to him as well. And, he's coming off a 7-block performance versus Air Force. I mean, what he's been able to do on both sides of the ball this year has been terrific this year, and has really gone, I feel like in a sense underappreciated for San Jose State. So, Robbie V is doing a whole lot of good things right now. And, for San Jose State, I feel like, they're going to have to, the way that they're going to have to win this game tonight is, Fresno does have themselves a good defense. So I think your 3-point shot and, just offensively, your performance is going to have to be crucial here. Like, you cannot lay one of these eggs, on the road. It's amazing, John, that we talk about it all the time, when we just, watch these college basketball games, that it's amazing the two different versions of a team that you could get on the road versus when they're in their home building. And I'm curious in the sense, are we going to get that version of Fresno State when they play up, or the San Jose State? They cannot come in here and, start out slow. That is my, I would say my first, the first 10 minutes of the game could be crucial in this one. Just what are you seeing here from, and what are the keys in this game for San Jose State, to get to 5-7 in conference this year?
Well, one of the keys is don't underestimate him. Kind of like that Air Force game I was saying last week. Don't go into this game underestimating them just because of their record. On the other side, they're thinking that this is still a rivalry game for them, and they want to come in here and send a message. And for San Jose State, I'm looking for them to get some points in transition, start to speed up the game a little bit, and start to work into your motion a little bit. Fresno State ranks last in assists in the Mountain West in terms of moving the ball. They struggle in terms of just trying to get in the paint, trying to get an open bucket. And if San Jose State can limit those lanes and try to just really get this team struggling and make somebody else take a shot besides Weaver or Collins, it could be a long night for Fresno State. And then on the flip side as well, making Fresno State just a little bit uncomfortable as well. On top of being last in assists, unfortunately for Fresno State, they haven't been able to take care of the ball in the Mountain West. They're also first in turnovers, averaging over just around 13 turnovers a game in the Mountain West. And San Jose State, that must be music to the ears coming into this game, because, Nick, all of a sudden, San Jose State has been playing some top-notch defense coming into here. They played some great defense against Air Force. They kind of let them hang around for about maybe a quarter and a half until they ended up finishing up. But, against Wyoming, against San Diego may not have been the result that you wanted, but the defense there, it was top-notch. They've been playing some of the best defense they've been playing all year. And obviously Robert Viola's there. He's the main guy in Day Hall. But I told you this off air. I'm going to give credit to Donovan Yap. Maybe he hasn't been, offensively splurging the way he's been wanting to, but he's been guarding Obi Ogwin, Miles Bird, at Air Force as well, dealing with that three-point barrage they like to shoot out as well. So Donovan Yap, man, coming into here, not just offensively, I'm looking for him to either go on Zayon Collins or Jalen Weaver, Fresno State's top 2 scorers, and subdue them and really just make their life just not so good today, whether it's beyond the arc or in the paint. And then luckily for Donovan Yap, he's got his Fresno State buddy and Robert Viola in the paint if they can get past him. But, man, Donovan Yap, shout out to his defense, because that's been a key for the Spartans in the last 3 games that I think has gone a little bit unnoticed in the Mountain West, where this guy's been a lockdown defender. And Josh Aduje and Latrell Davis during the postgame conference against Air Force and Wyoming were just raving about Donovan Yap and his defense. And I'm excited to see what they can do here against a fierce Fresno State team who's coming in here and trying to send a message, man. This is their home, and they're not taking this game lightly either.
Yeah, most certainly. You brought up some great points across the board. Like what Donovan Yap's been able to do here the past, I would say, 3 games. You kind of laid it down on us. Ethan Taylor, 3-point sniper. Obi Agbim, who has scored 10 points in every game this season, except when he played against San Jose State. And Donovan Yap, he had 7 points on a terrible shooting night. He's going to be going up against Collins or Crawford or whoever the case may be. My guess is that it's going to be Collins. because that's their point guard and that's the guy that's running the show for them. And, we'll see how that matchup is. Yap, the numbers are not going to really showcase what he has done for San Jose State this year. I've really said that a bunch, where, he might get a steal or two, but a lot of those steals are ending up in, Josh Aduche's or Will McClendon's hands. But he is really the enforcer. He's the guy that, is coming in, really trapping everybody in the coffin's corner or put him in a bad situation. And it's the other guys, that are ultimately, capitalizing in the stat sheet in a sense based on the pressure that Yap is getting. So he's been terrific, and obviously he's gonna be up for it as well. Jonathan, I think we got to talk about Latrell Davis, man, because you and I both came in here in the preseason and said this is the best kept secret in the Mountain West. And I bet for guys that have been at San Jose State for the past couple seasons now, we've seen this team, quite a bit. But we saw this last year with Latrell, especially in the back end of the conference season, where he was really able to take off, really be the only, source of bench scoring. And, some other guys are coming along, but Tim Miles has said a bunch where, Latrell is coming off the bench for a reason, and it's to give me that boost. And if my starting five is, asleep at the wheel, he could go give him, a little something, on the court. And, Latrell's been an absolute weapon this year. He's averaging 10 points per game, which it feels like he's averaging more than that. I mean, for what he's been able to do, I'll pull up his last 3 games here in a minute, but the numbers are just astronomical from a shooting percentage and just an impact, on the scoreboard is concerned. But, what he's been doing, for San Jose State, I mean, quite honestly, you just hope the Spartans could keep a player like that next year, right? Because this guy is getting a whole lot of buzz right now, and, he's, as crazy as it sounds, for a guy that's coming off the bench in the 6th man, he's on the top of everybody's scouting report right now. And the Mountain West is definitely well aware of this guy. And, it's just been amazing to watch, because you don't see a guy with, for his size and his youth and only in his 2nd year in collegiate ball, have that type of athleticism. And, we were kind of looking at each other, Jonathan, in the Air Force game on Saturday and be like, wow, that's incredible. The way he just gets into the lane and is all of a sudden going to the free throw line. So, Latrell Davis has been incredible. And, you and I both been preaching, for the past couple of weeks, where's the Josh Aduche productivity? And not that he hasn't been productive, but it's the fact that we just wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive, I would say, because this is a guy, sure, he's your number one, leading scorer, but this is a guy, when he has an outburst, you're more than likely going to win the game. He's got 10, 20-point games this year. He's one of the top scorers in the Mountain West. He was kind of, I would say, he was a little too unselfish in a sense, I would say, trying to get others involved. And, credit to San Jose State. There's a lot of, just college basketball teams out there that, when a guy starts out hot, they won't necessarily feed him. And San Jose State does a really good job at feeding the hot hand. And, Josh has kind of been a guy that has shared the ball quite a bit. But this is now, I would say, 2 games in a row now. Air Force on Saturday, San Diego State a week ago, as crazy as that sounds. This is the 3rd game in 7 days for SJSU. If Josh can be the engine to the offense to start for the Spartans, I think everyone will come along for the ride. Jonathan, just talk to me about what Josh has meant for this team, because it's remarkable for the role that he had last year. Mountain West 6th Man of the Year, a big contributor as far as, Utah State's regular season title and NCAA tournament appearance. Josh has just been everything as advertised for this group. And even you can argue a little bit more. Maybe the Spartans are getting a little bit more bang for their buck here with Josh.
Yeah, I mean, to compare him to a former Spartan, great. Right now, just running it through him kind of reminds me of the Amari Moore type of days with Josh Aduche coming in here and really just taking over. And with that being said, early on in the middle of the conference play, he was taking 8 to 9 shots, and that's the only reason I say not the productivity was low. It's just he hasn't been taking enough shots. And, over the last couple games, spanning from Wyoming, Air Force, and hopefully up until now as well against this team, he needs to be taking at least some 10-plus shots a game. He's the bona fide number 1 option for this team. He has to be, and that's how he has to play. And it's kind of a quote-unquote good problem to have for a coaching staff when you got multiple guys who can really come out here and kind of sling it. Whether there's Josh Aduche or Will McClendon, Day-Day Hall's had his days as well. And, during the post-game conference against Air Force, Tim Miles wasn't afraid to say that sometimes they won their offense through Robert Viola, and he's a big piece of it. So you got 4 guys you can really run the offense through, but Josh Aduje has been the one who's right now number 6 in the Mountain West in points per game, averaging around 16 points per game. And if you can run it through him, and I think all the pieces start to fall together, kind of like Robert Viola and Will McClendon when they're struggling. Will McClendon's had his off days. Day-Day's also had his off days. But when Josh Aduje's, getting on it, he hasn't really had a quote-unquote off day yet. This guy's as well top 5 in the Mountain West in field goal percentage, and he's taking a 3 basically doing this. He's not a center, taking shots right under the basket. He's all around the world taking shots, whether it's from the 3-point arc, under the basket, driving in. Not only is he the number 1 option, he's efficient in doing it. He doesn't take silly shots, and I think right now Tim Miles is starting to realize it kind of starts and ends with Josh Aduje, and having Latrell Davis come off the bench, man, that's just a luxury, a whole plus, because you can kind of switch up the entire pace of the offense when Latrell's in and Josh is out. So a whole different team and setup from last year, because there's so many different luxuries that Tim Miles gets to play with, and Josh Aduje, man, he's giving them that spark, and hopefully can give him that type of this Cinderella run that SJSU has been looking forward since that 2022 year with Omari Moore and company. And I think they brought in the right guy to do it from Utah State. The 6th man of the year, he wanted to start. He's starting, and he's living up to every sort of potential he could with that starting gig so far.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's obvious that the Josh Aduje Latrell Davis relationship is pretty strong. I mean, these guys Leeds England for Latrell, and you got London England for Josh Aduje. I mean, Latrell's told stories that he's been watching Josh grow up and really blossom, them coming from, the same homeland and, and all of that. So, since, that relationship has really blossomed, from the start of the year to now. And, that just goes to show, like, San Jose State's chemistry. This is, I would say, Jonathan, just a group overall, especially since the Day-Day Hall starting lineup insertion has really figured things out. They've looked pretty comfortable playing with each other because, man, I mean, I'm going to keep saying it like the way this team looked against Western Illinois in the season opener. I mean, if San Jose State were to play the Leathernecks tomorrow, even if they played, Fresno State tonight, I mean, quite honestly, San Jose State, I feel like would be light years ahead of what we saw on opening night. Just from an individual standpoint, because that group is playing extremely well right now. And, just based on what the eye test is providing. As far as Latrell Davis, we said we were going to pull up his numbers the last 3 games, and it's really remarkable. 63 points, 22 for 30 shooting, and 11 for 14 from 3. Like, how insane is that? I mean, he had a career high in against Wyoming, rather. He had he re-broke the career high at San Diego State. Had like another 15 to 18 off the bench on Saturday. Like, this is just a real weapon that SJSU has. Jonathan, when you look at the personnel for Fresno State, switching gears here a little bit, the matchup that I in particular like, and I can't wait to watch the first 10 minutes of this game just to see who has the hot hand, whether it's Will or Josh, or if they're really getting into the free throw line with their dribble penetration tonight. But to me, Rob Viola, I mean, Big Rob is got him. I feel like he's got himself a respectable matchup there with Mo Sack down low. I mean, this Fresno State doesn't really have too much frontline help, because of the Amar Aguilar injury, which, by the way, like, they sent that kid out to Mountain West Media Days this year. Like, he was supposed to be a big part of, like, this year's group. I mean, if you're not going out to Media Day for no reason. Like, if you're going to talk out in Vegas, and flap your gums for 8 hours, you got to be the real deal. And they sent Jalen Weaver and Aguilar out there to represent Fresno State and their basketball group this year. And Aguilar's not available. Like, he was supposed to be that stretch 4 guy, and he's not there. So this is basically Mo Sack's front court. And we've seen Rob Viola. This guy won the Nelly Jr. Joseph matchup versus New Mexico, and we see what Nelly Jr. Joseph is doing out there for New Mexico. Like, this guy's probably going to be a first-team All Mountain West selection out there for the New Mexico Lobos. So, Rob Viola, whether you want to go back to even the previous matchups, maybe outside of the Magoon-Guath matchup for San Diego State, which was just a legacy game for the freshmen and the big man for the Aztecs. I mean, there really hasn't been, a matchup in a sense where, Rob has, gone crazy and, done, really gotten, neutralized in that sense. So I'm very interested to see that matchup in particular. Is there that matchup you're looking at, Jonathan, or is there another one where San Jose State can really take advantage of just from a one-on-one standpoint here?
I like that. I'm gonna stick with Robbie V too. I told you last on Saturday against Air Force that even though it runs through Josh Aduje and obviously Latrell coming off the bench in terms of offense, I think game in and game out, Robbie V has the hardest task of any Spartan going into any game. I'm not afraid to say that he's dealing with the grit and grindiness of each team, with the big man of each team, and really besides Sada and Ghana and Chol Mariel, Robert Viola is eating up all the minutes in this game, and he's dealing with all the big guys coming into here, 6'10", 6'9", playing bully basketball. And not only that, Nick, he's playing like 24 minutes plus a game. He's not, just playing 19, 20 minutes. He's out here playing starting minutes against some of the best in the Mountain West in terms of what they pride themselves in big man play here. And I think we haven't seen that in terms of points because they've been limiting him in the paint, and he's really just a big presence inside there and able to get it to his other guys to spread the floor like Josh Aduje, setting them up for open threes. Luma Clendon, they respect Robert V so much in the post that he can kick it out to any other guy, and that leaves him wide open. And I don't expect anything less here in Fresno State. The only difference is the matchup for him is a lot more better in terms of just the talent and an experience. Morsek is 7-1 from Senegal, but, he's only playing 20 minutes a game, give or not. He only played 21 minutes against Boise State, and it was a big matchup problem. And for Robert Viola, I expect him to try to take advantage of it down low and kind of have his quote-unquote legacy game because he hasn't had it yet so far this season, even though they couldn't have won any single game without him. Robert Viola, I think he's the guy who I'm looking out for here. And I think he has a point to prove here because, like I said earlier, the freshman, his counterpart, in Elijah Price, he's number 3 in the Mountain West in rebounding per game, and Robert Viola is 5. And overall, Spartans rank 8th in the Mountain West in rebounding. And believe it or not, Nick, Fresno State is number 5 right now. I know I said they're almost at the bottom, except for rebounding. Somehow, some way, Fresno State is able to get those loose balls and play aggressive. And that's something that Tim Miles and Robert Viola are going to have to look out for because, more seconds and getting those rebounding. It's Elijah Price, Crawford, Collins, Weaver, all getting to those loose balls and the rebounds. And it's going to be up to Robert Viola to be that presence and those other guys to try to help him get those loose balls. But Robbie V and maybe even Donovan just for the comeback are my 2 guys to focus on this game.
Yeah, well, if you look at the stat sheet from the Saturday matchup versus Air Force, right, there was, outside of the Spartans losing the rebound battle in that game and the second chance points, right, what was it, like 28-5, some astronomical number that Air Force was favored off of. Now San Jose State overall was able to hold, Air Force to like 36% overall shooting. And, the Spartans were able to capitalize on their 3-point shots in a game like that on Saturday. But, a game like that, that's like tonight, it could keep Fresno State in it, especially if the shots aren't falling. So, that's very important. We always talk about, just the home and road dynamic, just always being, sometimes you'll just get 2 different versions of a team, and it's pretty remarkable. Like sometimes, how that just that whole dynamic will work. So Jonathan, we talked about San Jose State, playing with some revenge from last year. Well, they've been playing revenge in this building for about 15 years now, so something's gonna have to give. But if you recall, but last year, you talked about the Isaiah Hill game winner, but there was a call in particular when there was a frantic possession, the last offensive possession that San Jose State had. And it was when MJ Amy drove in on the controversial block charge call. Remember, like could have been like an and one blocking foul on Eduardo Andre, who's at Dub V now in Morgantown. But he gets called. He draws the charge. A lot of people could argue that MJ Amy, could have gotten the count at and one, and it's a potential 2 or even 3-point lead for San Jose State. And that 3 that Isaiah Hill banks the other way. We have the camera about this basket right in front of us, that maybe goes to overtime. So I mean, there's shoulda, woulda, coulda. Last year is not this year, and it's a completely different cast of characters. But still, I mean, this is a game that for San Jose State, as they right now, we'll get the camera back on them as they do some drills of their own right now, and practice out here, and looks like they were working on the just their pressure here, and things like that. Just how the prototypical warm-ups that mostly all these teams will do. SJSU sometimes will run their 2-3 zone defense, make sure that it's firing on all cylinders here. But I mean, from what I'm looking at, Jonathan, looks like we don't have anything significant on the injury report outside of the season-long injuries, with John May Jong and Ben Rosenborough. So that is definitely a green flag. Everybody seems to be looking healthy out there for the San Jose State side of things, and for the Spartans, they're gonna try it out here and play, with some revenge for a game in this building that they haven't won, as you see down below on our ticker, since 2009. Jonathan talked about the Fresno State scouting report a little bit earlier. For a team that's 5-17 overall, 1-10 in Mountain West play. We talked about it. It's been a dreadful year for these Bulldogs with first-year head coach Vance Wahlberg. But as far as an offensive perspective, what you're going to get from them, just from a maybe not like an X's and O's standpoint, but just the general basis of what they're going to do. Lots of dribble, drive, and penetration. Like, for the most part, their point guard is going to drive, and it's either, they're going to kick it out to an open three-point shooter, which wouldn't shock me if they take a whole lot of threes in this game. I know the game's translated that way, but if they get the open looks, they are most definitely going to take it, especially the way Rob Viola has been from a shot-blocking presence this year for San Jose State. So wouldn't shock me if there's if there's a three-point barrage here out in the Central Valley here tonight from a Fresno State perspective. And, from Fresno, just looking back on their Boise State game, opened up with a lot of 2-3 zone defense. So how does that impact San Jose State, from an offensive perspective? If the shots are flowing and they're shooting over the zone with their three-pointers, I mean, it really shouldn't be much of an issue, because Fresno State, quite honestly, when they've played man-to-man this year, they've just gotten absolutely burnt. So Wahlberg, he's, credit to him, he's trying everything he can out there, and he's got limited reinforcements with all the injuries now. I mean, we talked about the significance of the Aguilar injury, but now this guy, he lost Michael Robinson a few games ago. I mean, he lost Douglas, the Green Bay transfer, who unfortunately for him has never been helping his collegiate career. So San Jose State really needs to take advantage in the sense of the banged up bodies that Fresno State has. Fresno might only play 6 to 7 guys, Jonathan, here tonight. Because those deeper reserves just simply might not be ready yet. And, obviously we don't know the entire approach. We've seen a lot of coaches pull, especially when we've been on the air for, some of these on-air radio broadcasts with KSJS. They just pull a rabbit out of their hat, right? I mean, we've seen it a bunch. You'll see it typically more early on this season. It won't necessarily happen as much, and once when we get to conference play time. But, I mean, would it shock you here if Fresno goes deep in the archives in a sense, and maybe there's some guy that comes out of nowhere here? I mean, with we already know you're the usual suspects here. You talked about Price quite a bit here. He redshirted last year at Drake, first year in the Fresno State program. Alex Crawford leads the team in scoring. He's their best shot creator, and just overall, this is like what I would say their definition of a three-headed snake here. And it's amazing what 1 year can do, huh? Like, their only major contributor from last year's group is Jalen Weaver, right? So, if you watched Fresno State last year, this is not exactly the same team. That team was very old, right? They had Bawachi and Andre, upperclassmen. Isaiah Hill's out of eligibility. Isaiah Pope was on this last year's group, and, he's out of eligibility. And this is very much the exact opposite of old. It's very young. So, very interested to see that dynamic as well here. And just your thoughts. I know you talked about Price, Jonathan, but your thoughts on the Fresno State personnel, and who's the one guy that you're probably looking for, or maybe that you're worried about for San Jose State, where they need to really keep an eye on him. It could be a guy off the bench or one of their usual suspects. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the guy that I know and who's coming back here, and Jalen Weaver, a guy which has probably been on this team longer than everybody on that roster right now, and I'm assuming wants to get a win here for his team and some revenge as well for Fresno State. Didn't end the way he wanted to last year. He's dealt with the same thing the school has in terms of the whole coaching change, a whole new roster, having to learn a whole new playbook. And he was there for that Isaiah Hill shot and for the elimination at the Mountain West tournament. Eventually, that team was loaded, and it really. Just from top to bottom, it just unfortunately for them, it didn't pan out the way they wanted to in the season, which is fine. But right now, Jalen Weaver, in terms of starting, I think is that guy to look out for Tim Miles and company. And off the bench, Brian Umenke, he had 16 points, career high against Boise State in that 20-point loss. And Nick, I know it's not something that's gonna shatter the earth, but like you said, they have 3 rotation players who have been missing for Fresno State. So guys like Brian, who's a freshman, played 26 minutes. I think those are the type of guys you're going to have to look out for. Jasir Tremble has been playing in the last couple of games, too, getting 14-plus minutes. So you can just limit some of the guys coming off the bench and really just make sure those guys don't go off and keep, just stick it to Collins, Weaver, and Crawford. They've been playing 30 minutes plus in all their games, the last 3-4 games. 30 minutes is a whole plethora of minutes. That's why they don't decide to go to their bench. The inexperience has been proven otherwise. But if you can make sure that these guys just stick to their starters and really just don't go to that bench, I think that's going to be a big part here. And Weaver, hopefully you can limit him, because when he gets going, he can really start to get going from beyond the arc. And we've seen it last year, and we haven't necessarily seen it this year, but who knows? It can come out at any time. And what better time than to do it against your rival in San Jose State? Remember, the only win they have in conference play is against Air Force, so a win against San Jose State at home will go a long way before the season starts to continue. And they want to build up that higher seeding as well, because they're only a game up on Fresno as well from Fresno State's perspective.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you talked about Weaver. I mean, between Donovan Yap, who's is wearing a San Jose State uniform, Jalen Weaver, who's still wearing the Fresno State uniform, that was the tandem off the bench last year for these guys. Yeah, Ducell as well. Ducell, how ironic. He's in the Mountain West as well. Third Mountain West school now for Ducell. At Nevada, who torched San Jose State in Reno when they played this year. But it's amazing, right? Just a lot of guys, they'll transfer because they want a bigger role. Sometimes for a guy like Jalen Weaver, he'll fall straight into your lap, like, hey, you're the guy now. And that's the transfer portal. The transfer portal, everyone has their own opinion about it, and this, that, and the other. But for a lot of the San Jose State players this year, I mean, Will McClendon, he was a part of the NCAA tournament with UCLA, a few years ago. He was coming off the bench. He wanted a little bit more time. He comes into the starting lineup for SJSU. Donovan Yap, he was coming off the bench for Fresno for quite a bit of years, and he wanted himself a starting point guard role with this team. So, the transfer portal has definitely worked for San Jose State. Obviously, the Josh Aduje, element to this as well, with him being 6th man of the year, and now he's the 6th scorer in the Mountain West as a whole. So, the transfer portal, even though San Jose State has, definitely been taking advantage of it, a lot of their players, when they play good, for the most part, they're getting reached out by other schools and, being offered some dough as well. And, it seems like it's going to be just this it looks like just based on the past couple of years, where it just might be this trajectory where they have a new roster every single year. But there's no doubt, despite the 4-7 Mountain West record, San Jose State is really peaking right now as we get into March timeframe, which we know, Jonathan, that is when you really want to be, starting, to pick things up here. And, it's a marathon, not a sprint in this. And, the Spartans started out very slow, but here they come. They've won, 5 of their last 7 now, or 4 of their last 6 rather. And, they got Fresno State tonight at the Save Mart Center. They got Boise State at Extra Mile Arena in Boise, Idaho. They'll be playing Alvaro Cardenas again. And then they host San Diego State, which I imagine will be if I had to take bets on the most liveliest crowd that we've had at the event center, Jonathan, that game for San Diego State will probably be the most lit crowd of the year. Not only because it's San Diego State in the town, and I imagine every Spartan fan will come and want to watch the San Diego State Aztecs with their rich history and culture with under Brian Dutcher. But the Aztec fans last year really packed the crowd out there in San Jose. So, that's a game next Tuesday for San Jose State, a national TV game as well. We should mention that it's going to probably be on a whole lot of people's radars out in the Mountain West, especially the way that they played a week ago from Viejas Arena in Southern California. Jonathan, I'm just curious to get your take here. This is a third game in 7 days here for these Spartans. I mean, I know they've been, practicing all year round here, but outside of a run in the Mountain West tournament where they have a chance to play up to 4 games in 4 days, depending on their seeding here. I mean, and they go on a run there. This is probably the most brutal regular season stretch in a sense, where the amount of legs, manpower, and just overall, preparation that you're going to have all regular season long here. This is the third game here of that 7-day stretch. I'm very curious. Does that play an element into any of this here tonight in a sense? And because it's an outside the ordinary dynamic here. Usually you only play on Tuesdays or Saturdays, but this just happens to be at this portion of the calendar, and the way the schedule came out, where you're playing the stretch, and it just happens that the third game here happens to be the rivalry game.
I think you can say, you bring up a good point. I think you can say the same for a lot of teams just playing a whole bunch of games within a small stretch. And yeah, it can be a problem, but for San Jose State, they're trying to get over that hump right now, 4-7 in the Mountain West, sitting at 9th place, tied with Nevada and Wyoming for that spot. I would look at this as a quote unquote trial, practice run before the Mountain West tournament starts. And if you're looking to advance, well, guess what? You're going to be playing basically every other day or every day if you want to keep going and advancing to that championship run. So for San Jose State, thankfully for them, they have guys, Nick, who have essentially kind of been here, done that before, right? Josh Aduje had his share in the Mountain West tournament, went like 4 or 5 days there, and then went to the March Madness, went all the way to the Sweet 16, get eliminated by Purdue. You got guys like Donovan Yap who participated in the Mountain West tournament as well, Latrell Davis. You mentioned Will McClendon in UCLA days. And, the only really guy who hasn't been around for a stretched period of time is someone like Robert Viola, who missed last year with injury. So I'm not too worried about this crew because I think Tim Miles has them all coached up and ready to go. I think this team right now has shown that they're ready to get to that hump, and I think it adds an extra layer, Nick, that if they win this game, not only will they be 5-7 in the Mountain West, but they'll get back to 500, and that'll go a long way for their morale. And right now, looking at the locker room, the conferences, post-game conferences, and the vibe of around the locker room, these guys don't look head down at all. They're always juiced. They're always buddy with each other. And from a outside point of view, I really enjoy that. I see no signs of fatigue just yet, and I really see it as more so on the other side for Fresno State, considering the injuries and the minutes that the players have had to play over there. For San Jose State, I think they're just starting to get into the thick of things, and hopefully, my words won't live to eat me, but fatigue, I don't think it'll play a factor the way it kind of did at San Diego State. I think they kind of got over that hump, and they can show it right here in this game. So hopefully all these guys got it, and if not, they can just put in Latrell Davis, and he'll burst all their energy in with a quick 1-2 into the lane there. But yeah, hopefully the fatigue doesn't play a factor in this game. And San Jose State, one of the things they wanted to build up was that intensity after losing the rebounding battle against Air Force, and kind of looking to get back to the fundamentals. Remember, Josh Aduje missed 2 free throws in that last game, and he wasn't too happy about that. Neither was Tim Miles, kind of cracking some jokes about the free throw thing. So I would just say, in terms of fatigue, just kind of get the noise out of your head and stick to the fundamentals. I think that's what's going to get the window here over Fresno State.
All right, Jonathan, put you on the spot. Here's a quick hitter for you. Do we see Steven Vasquez make an appearance in this game? We know he was on Fresno State last year. He's gotten some sparks in some spots. In fact, he was a big part of the New Mexico game, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been Jermaine Washington, or it might have been the conference, the non-conference game versus Cal Poly or Kennesaw State, where he really came out and really provided a spark off the bench. He is one of the deeper reserves, but we all know he's been chopping it up. I don't know if the folks at home have been able to capture it, on our webcam, but he's definitely got some familiar faces that he's been chopping it up with. But You said without the mic and without the folks hearing you that definitely. So whether if it's in the an early reserve, early substitution with Latrell Davis 5 minutes into the game, or whether it's a one possession game, whatever the case may be, or a blowout, in any direction. Jonathan thinks you're going to see a Steven Vasquez appearance, the Fresno State transfer coming over from San Jose. We do have our starting lineups, on the board here. So we'll go ahead and rattle those off for you. As we are about 11 minutes or so away from tip-off, we'll be signing off here in a few short minutes. And then Jonathan and I will be back, post-game to talk about everything that transpired out here in Fresno between San Jose State and Fresno State. But for your Spartans, it will be Donovan Yap Jr., the Fresno State transfer, coming back to Fresno for the first time since he transferred out of here last year. Will McClendon, Latrell Davis getting a surprise add to the starting lineup. So Davis will not be coming off the bench tonight. He'll be solidifying what is technically a four-guard lineup here for San Jose State if you want to throw in Josh Aduje into the mix. So your four guards, Yap, McClendon, Davis, Aduje, and then it'll be Rob Viola down low at the center spot. So a new lineup here for San Jose State. They're going to be rolling out on the Fresno State side. Jalen Weaver, their point guards, Zion Collins, as well, solidifying that backcourt. The redshirt freshman Elijah Price, Alex Crawford, the number one scorer here for Fresno State, averaging north of 12 a game, and Morsek at the center spot. We talked about that Rob Viola Morsek matchup for just down low in this matchup that Robbie V could potentially have a big time game offensively and defensively in that area. But Jonathan, a shuffle to the starting lineup. We haven't seen this all too much in a sense this year since really the early season struggles of the Spartans. Latrell Davison, welcome to the starting lineup. I guess your raw and initial thoughts on this one, because it's quite honestly a curveball in a sense based on Tim Miles' comments here the past couple games.
Well, Nick, I don't want to raise any eyebrows to you or the Spartan Nation, but we should note that Adrian Hall was out here in all black. He was not in warm-ups or uniform taking shots with the team. We'll have to monitor that situation and see if he comes out, obviously, after initial warm-ups with the rest of the team. Now the starting lineups have been announced, but he wasn't in his normal jumpsuit, and he was just in all black, not taking shots. So maybe Adrian Hall won't be coming into this game, or maybe Tim Miles just going into his coaching bag and deciding to take him off the bench. But hey, we kind of said it earlier in the show. Who knows what the teams are going to Mount West are going to throw at each other. We saw Sundance Wicks use like 13 guys in that game with Obi Ogwum when Donovan Yap shut him down with a boo base. So maybe Tim Miles, trying to go into his coaching bag and give Vance Wahlberg, a little bit of a check here and just say, hey, I'm gonna speed things up here a lot more than you might be used to, since this team is number one in turnovers and they can't really move the ball. Maybe he wants to go straight into it with Latrell Davis and see what he can do. And Latrell Davis, I know he's excited for it. I know everybody wants that six man off the bench. Only Javon Buchanan isn't producing more points than him off the bench as far as six man goes. So Latrell Davis, hopefully Day Hall is okay first and foremost. And second of all, Latrell Davis, I think he's going to take advantage of this golden opportunity, because as much as we'd like the six man of the year candidate, I know Latrell Davis wants those starting minutes, and we'll see what he can do with it here now that they have four guards rolling out here, looking like a Don Nelson type of lineup for Tim Miles. I'm excited for it. I don't have a problem with it, Nick. And I think for this particular game, all due respect, that won't necessarily backfire for the Spartans.
Yeah, that's definitely some good points, as we are about 8 minutes or so away from tip-off here. You talked about raising my eyebrows. Yeah, that was quite the eyebrow raise here when Davis was in the starting lineup. And excuse me for missing Day Hall not on here. So yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely monitor that situation. And and you brought up some good points. Maybe in this particular matchup, in a sense, it might not backfire for San Jose State here, versus when you're playing a Boise State, right, and you're banging and bumping with Tyson Degenhart, Omar Stanley, Emmanuel Ugbo. It's a completely different story here. So maybe the lack of the front court here, maybe it's just a change that San Jose State wants to speed up Fresno, which by the way Fresno has no problem doing. They will play all gas no brakes as well, and will they be ready for Latrell Davis because the film room is definitely different from what you will see on the hardwood, but hey, I can't wait to watch that dynamic of this and just see how it all fares out here. So San Jose State and Fresno State live from the Save Mart Center, getting ready to tip off here in less than 7 minutes. We're going to actually sign off for our pregame coverage here. And, when we come back, we will have, after the game, we will have our postgame coverage. We'll talk about the good, the bad, the ugly from, San Jose State, as well as the Fresno State side of things. And, we'll see. Maybe we get ourselves a crazy game, just like last year where it came down to the final shot. Or who knows? This one could be over before they sing the anthem. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes here from the Central Valley. Appreciate all of the Spartan fans, Mountain West fans, and just our college basketball fans overall coming on to tune in and chat it up with us. It was definitely a good time, and we'll catch up with you after the game. So we'll see you after this one concludes. Enjoy the game, and if you're watching, listening, wherever you may be tuning in, enjoy the game, and we'll definitely provide our insights here right where we're set up here on the baseline after this one goes final. So we'll set up the live stream and timing and all of that's good stuff. So for Jonathan Condos, I'm Nick Urias, and we will see you after San Jose State and Fresno State conclude.